are also representative of the heavenly beings, meaning the cities in this world are supposed to, although it's largely corrupt, they're largely corrupted and tainted by sin, but they're supposed to represent what heavenly city looks like. Come to think of it, Los Angeles stands for a city of angels, right? Interestingly, it does not look like that right now, but it's supposed to be, right? And we can see with our physical senses, and we can sense it. The world kind of gives us like a shadow, like a pictorial representation, like an image representation of the heavenly existence and heavenly beings and heavenly realm. For example, a country has a territory. A country has the leadership. The country has citizens and things like that. So while we see that, it's also representative of the heavenly realm, the kingdom of God. We can understand that because we have a country, right? And the kingdom of God, its territory is everywhere because God is everywhere, right? Versus we know that our territory is limited, geographical territory is limited. And we understand when we say, oh, the kingdom expands, right? Or the enemy has taken over. What does that mean? The realm of influence can expand and it can shrink depending on who wins the battle at that moment, right? In our hearts, the kingdom of heaven is in our hearts, and it can increase and it can decrease depending on how we choose in our spiritual battles every day. And also, make it larger for a group of people, say a church community. The kingdom can expand if we, as corporate body, choose God's way, battle against the spirit of darkness, versus it can shrink if we actually step back and start relying on ourselves or relying on the ways of the world instead of following God. So it's a faith battle, right? And so we understand the spiritual realm because we have the visible realm that teaches us lessons, right? And so just like that, we use 5 senses, physical senses, in order to sense the surrounding and even ourselves. But we can utilize spiritual 5 senses in order to better experience and know God's kingdom and His doing. And that's what we do. The second time I read it for you, you utilize spiritual 5 senses in order to experience God and His Word. And it comes with practice. Like, how am I? It's like way over my head. Like, I've never done this. Yes, but that's why we keep trying. And faith is an action, and faith journey is like an apprenticeship. You learn by doing, and so that's part of the reason we're doing this repeatedly. Number 3, the third time I read it for you, whatever that stood out to you. Once again, the image, the word, the sentence, the smell, touch, that stood out to you. Why did it stand out to me? And you actually ask God, Lord, speak to me. What do you mean by that? Perhaps it's going to reveal to us like what it originally meant, but then more importantly, how does it apply to my own life? Like why? It can prompt an action, but it may not be. It may be just a revelation that will eventually lead to an action, but it might be just a real understanding of your circumstances or what He's doing and what's going to happen in the future and things like that, or the interpretation and reinterpretation of your past too. It can be anything, and there's a reason he speaks to us that way. And then if you haven't experienced anything special particularly, then that's fine too. The fourth time, we're just resting. And just resting in God's word, because it speaks life. It revives us, revives our soul. And God is not limited by his time, this time or geographical boundaries, or he's not bound by three-dimensional world, and so he can speak to us in the next few days or even much later, as you're reminded. So we can relax, we can trust him. It's all about trust, because as much as we can choose to do, we're given the volitional power. We are given so many abilities that's really limited compared to what God can do. And what God wants us to learn is very countercultural. We learn to become independent, and independent human beings, like the pioneers of the West, like those people who came to California, not just California, but because we are in California, I'm just give that example. Those pioneers who just worked their way in, and they worked in the dirt. They the cowboys increased their territories. They built their houses, and it's all that, and we appreciate that because they lay the foundation for the next generations. However, we should never forget the fact that anything good comes from God. Anything that we were able to accomplish, it's not by human effort. Well, I take that again. It's because of God's grace. It's both ways. 100% of God's grace, 100% of our best effort in obedience to him. That's when success comes. And as far as I can remember, United States and Korea prospered when it was prospering in its spiritual state. When the faith of people in Jesus Christ was the highest, they prospered. And then we see a pattern when our faith struggles, our nations struggle as well. And that's very clear to me. Sometimes our eyes are blinded and we're like, okay, what did we do right before? Let's do that again by ourselves, with our own effort, relying on ourselves, like we're gonna make it happen again. The miracle of Han River, let's do it again. As much as we wanted. United States in its peak, in its glorious times, let's do it again. As much as we want to do that, we have to remember who made it happen, who helped us. The miracles that were experienced 100 years ago in the United States, remember, it was accompanied by major revivals. Do we seek revival in order to regain economy, regain our political power in the world? No. They will come, they will be accompanied, but that's not what we're aiming for. We're created with a purpose. And our meaning, the meaning of our lives, we're nothing but dirt without God. That's why we go back to the dirt. And if that's the only thing, then why should we even live a life? Why should we even struggle? Like, this life is a struggle, right? Well, at least to me. Maybe some of you are having a very good life, a comfortable life. But as far as I know, majority of people they wrestle with life daily basis. In my 40-something years of life, I have discovered that many people struggle. It's a double-edged sword. If you use that as an opportunity to connect with God, you're going to go deep in your faith versus if the challenges come in your way and you struggle and you grumble and you're like, well, if God exists, why do these things happen to me? Like, I don't understand. If we go toward that direction, we may head toward destruction. So it depends on how we choose. It's a faith battle, right? Just to reiterate that our physical life is a shadow. It's I use this example a lot, you know. There's a tree, for some reason its leaves are red, so, and let there be some fruit, because ought to bear fruit. Now, when there's the sun, okay, and then there's a shadow, so, I'm not very artistic, you can tell, but this is a shadow. And by the shadow, what do you know? When you see a shadow without looking up, you know that there is a tree. It's an evidence that there is a tree. And when this tree changes, say, you know, the wind blows, and so it bends. It bends. Okay, so there's a wind, and it just bends like crazily. You know, like a few days ago, you know, there was like a strong wind, and this time this one has blue leaves, and now the shadow looks what? It's a little bent, you know, it looks a little bit different. Okay, however it's supposed to look. It looks a little bit different because the tree is bending, right? And the shadow reflects that. And so if we prosper in our spirit, I don't want to say that, our spirit, then our physical life, you know, our physical life also prospers. Well, the scripture talks about that. So you can watch different videos about that as well. Research projects that I actually trace back to those places that experienced major economic boom and things like that. Not always, but it had been preceded by spiritual revival, people turning back to the Lord. And so what I'm trying to say is we need to understand that the world operates in the midst of chaos, in the midst of all the trouble, and look at like somebody who is doing a major harm to humanity right now out there. In spite of that, God is at work. That God is still sovereign over the world. And that sovereign God is sovereign over your life and my life, regardless of the circumstances. And eventually, our physical life is going to reflect the spiritual realm. What do we need to do? We need to turn to God and hear Him and move according to how He moves. If you read Exodus, you can see that people in the wilderness, they moved according to God's will. Like when in the wilderness, God moved, His Spirit moved with a pillar of cloud and pillar of fire. Then people just packed up and just followed. And when His presence, pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, rested on one place, then they would unpack and they would stop and just stay there. And that's what we're supposed to do. I know that it's really countercultural. Like, what are you talking about? Like, well, we're just given free will and we can do whatever we want to do. We have our desires. Like, that your God sounds really limiting. No, in that we're given so much freedom. It's not just about like He made us like robots. Okay, we have to follow like each step of the way. That's not. Along the way you will find jewels. Along the way you will find His way is the shortest distance, shortest route to the promised land. And that's why He wants to guide us and not to limit us. On the way, we're going to find jewels, we're going to find fruit, we're going to find miracles, we're going to find people, we're going to see people change into more beautiful beings. They're restored to God's beautiful image, the image that God originally had intended for the human beings. And so there's joy, there's it's so adventuresome to be with God. And if you're going through a very tough time right now, once again, I'm talking about majority of people, right? We're facing economic downturn. We're facing major difficulties in our lives, right? As human race. But when God is for us, who can be against us? He's sovereign. He is a provider. He is a provision. He gave us all the provision, and we need to not forget that. And in the midst of struggles, it's an opportunity for you to engage in spiritual battle, to overcome by trusting God and seeing His goodness. And when we trust God, He does not disappoint us. In the end, the fruit will be so sweet, it will be so abundant that we'll be ashamed to say, oh, you know what, here and there, I just really could not trust Him. But now I see why He told us to trust. Aside from the fact that without all that, He's worthy of our praise. He's worthy of our attention. He's worthy of our worship. Aside from that, He is faithful to come through because He is a good Father. He's a good shepherd. And He's mighty. And so, I didn't mean to preach, but let's try this out. Psalm 3. Okay, before we do that, let's take a deep breath. We did this before. Take a deep breath. And count to 6. Okay. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're gonna drink from His well. We're going to inhale His love, joy, and peace, patience, endurance, goodness. That's life and light. We're gonna just inhale it. Ready? Inhale. 1. Exhale our fears, worries, doubts, disappointments, complaints, negativity, anger, sorrow, anything that's broken, just gonna exhale. Inhale His life. Exhale worries, fears, failures. While you're inhaling and exhaling, just keep doing that. Here are some questions. How are you feeling right now? What are you feeling? Is that gratitude, disappointments, or feeling tired, energetic, joyful, sad, confused, confirmed, convicted, forgiven? Where were you looking for God in the past week or so? In your personal encounters with other people? While you're listening to music? While you're out in the nature? Through provision? When you're in your car driving somewhere? While you were praying to God, lifting up your concerns? Or just thanking Him? What must you lay down before God in order to be fully present in Him at this hour? So let's lay that down. Anything that hinders us and anything that distracts us. Entering into God's presence through His Word. Hear the Word of God, Psalm 3. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and He answers me from His holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. The word of God just wash over you. The second time I read for you, pay attention to anything that stands out to you. It could be an image, it could be a word, it could be certain sound, it could be smell, touch, or taste. And make it as yours. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. The third time I read it for you, you're going to actually lift up the thing that stood out to you and ask God what it means, why he let that stand out to you. And we're going to hear him speak. O Lord, how my adversaries have increased. Many are rising up against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no deliverance for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art a shield about me, my glory and the one who lifts my head. I was crying to the Lord with my voice, and he answered me from his holy mountain. I lay down and sleep. I awoke, for the Lord sustains me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God. For thou hast smitten all my enemies on the cheek. Thou hast shattered the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Thy blessing be upon thy people. Selah. The fourth time I read, we're going to just rest in his presence. Even if you didn't hear anything from him, even if nothing really stood out to you, God can speak to you time and location outside this. So we can relax and enjoy in his presence. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying to me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again, because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. To me, I call out to the Lord, and he answers me. That really stood out. And I'm surrounded by the enemies, but his hands are covering me. That's the image that I was actually getting. And he actually lifts me out of the surroundings. And he is like that, right? He's a good dad. He's like a good parent. If a child, is about to fall into something dangerous, they don't miss the moment, right? They just catch their baby out of that situation. And God is like that. That stood out to me. I hope that the time was a good time for you, where you could actually connect with God in some way, in some meaningful way. So let's just keep doing this and experience God. So I actually found some articles because we're learning about English sentences, right? And in order for you to see, I will increase this text. So I found some articles so we can actually read and talk about it. Because we talked about simple present, right? And present progressive or continuous, right? And what else did we talk about? I believe that we talked about present perfect partially, right? And we're going to actually talk about that as well. And right, present perfect and present perfect progressive. Right, we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, let's read this first. This is how you learn the language, right? 3 weeks that changed the lives of a mother and 2 children. Right. I'm going to read it a couple of times so we can actually understand, right? We're going to see 10. Because of her drinking, Tatiana's life had been ruined to the point that her precious children, Diana and Ruslan, were taken from her. So I guess these are the 2 children. Their mother, unfortunately, had a problem of addiction, right? How lovely the children are. Child protection officials gave Tatiana 6 months to get free from addiction and get her life back on track. Otherwise, her children would not be entrusted to her again. Desperate, she arrived at our rehabilitation center. I guess the center is called Mission Possible. Yeah, maybe they derived the name from the movie, right? Mission Impossible. I can only blame myself for everything, Tatiana lamented in a conversation with a worker in the rehabilitation home. At the age of 18, I was already drinking constantly and dropped out of school. Tatiana could have blamed her parents' bad example, but said she was nevertheless grateful to them for trying to provide her with everything she needed. I remember how my parents drank, partied, and then fought. My sister and I would hide ourselves out of fear. I was ashamed when my mother and I went to the police station to pick up my father the morning after a fight. My mother's face was swollen and bruised. I was afraid some of my classmates would see us. I was 22 when my daughter Diana was born. I decided to change the course of my life for the sake of my baby. I didn't want her to be ashamed of me. Indeed, a few sober years followed the baby's birth. Tatiana graduated from hairdressing school and got a job. She often spoke with Diana's father about making their relationship permanent, but he was not interested in marriage. One morning, after such a conversation, Tatiana made a radical decision and asked him to leave. He packed his things and left without a word. Nevertheless, my life was going pretty well. Diana was a sweet child and the center of my life. Eventually, though, I fell into self-pity and started drinking again. There were some better days when I did schoolwork with Diana and we went to the park together. That's where I met a new man. He was always caring and spoke gently to us. This new partner was from Uzbekistan. but worked in Russia. He moved in and cared for Tatiana and Diana. Soon, their son Ruslan was born, but alcohol was still a problem in the home. The authorities intervened when the neighbors reported the parents drinking. Ruslan had been found wandering alone in the park while his father was passed out on a bench. Police took custody of the little boy and then picked Diana up from school. I cried all night. I thought about how scared my children must be. I remember my own childhood terrors. In the morning, I went to the child care agency, but they told me I could not have the children back until I stopped drinking and got a job. The first thing I did when I got home was to collect my partner's things and tell him to leave. I knew I couldn't change my life on my own, but who would help me? As Tatiana was delivering a package to shelter for her children, one of the workers took pity on the devastated mother and wrote a phone number on a piece of paper. These people will help you get your children back, she advised. Tatiana sat down on a bench outside the building and immediately called our rehabilitation center, crying and asking for help. She traveled the 100 kilometers from her home to the city where we welcomed her with open arms. When Tatiana started our one-year rehabilitation program, we wrote a statement to the child protection authorities. They were pleased she had come to us. In less than 3 weeks, authorities released her children so they could join her at our center. During those first few weeks she was with us, Tatiana also heard the gospel for the first time. She immediately accepted Jesus as her savior. Life has been going well for the family. Tatiana carefully follows the advice and instructions she's given. She and her children have made new friends at our center and in the church. Diana is attending elementary school nearby. We rejoice for the change in this family's life. Right, so let's take a look at the sentences. Aside from the fact that it's a heartwarming story. Yeah. Because of her drinking, this is like a clause, right? So what is a clause? We learned about this last time. So there's a word, right? There's a word, and which one is bigger? A clause is bigger. A clause can be a complete sentence, but it could be an incomplete sentence. It could be a fragment of a sentence. And a complete sentence is the biggest structure, right? And so because of her drinking, what is it? It's a clause, right? Because of her drinking. And it's talking about the reason, and it's not a full sentence, right? So it's a clause. Because of her drinking, what happened? Tatiana's life had been ruined to the point, it's a complete sentence. But it goes on, with describing clause, right? It functions like an adjective, right? That, her precious children, but rather than describing, it's like talking about the result, right? Ultimate result of her ruined life is that her precious children, Diana and Ruslan, were taken from her, right? So it's a kind of a compound sentence, right? Compound and complex sentence. In the middle of that, the children's name are mentioned in between the subject and the verb, right? Because the subject itself, their names are actually part of the subject, right? Her precious children. Who are these children? Diana and Ruslan. Not that whole thing is a subject. Were taken from her. So what happened here? Obviously, the lady, this mother, had a drinking problem, and her children were taken away because of her excessive drinking. And then what happened? Child protection officials gave Tatiana 6 months to get free from her addiction. That's a complete sentence, right? 6 months. to get free from your addiction, right? And then get her life back on track. So 2 conditions. What? In order to get the children back, because Child Protection Agency has taken them away from her. What are 2 things she's supposed to do? Get free from addiction, and number 2, what? To get back to life, normal life. Normal life meaning you've got to be able to maintain your life. Either you're working or you're doing something in order to be able to sustain your life and be able to be in a condition of be able to take care of your children. Like, do you have the capacity? Like, so are you working and managing your life, and at the same time, can you be a mother? Because a mother has to be able to spend time with her children, give them rides, right? If one of them is going to an elementary school, like, she needs to be able to give him a ride, her a ride, and what else? Need to feed them, help them take a bath if they are not trained yet, especially the younger one, right? And then are you able to show a good example to them? Like, are you a good parent, or are you going to teach them how to drink as well? Because you're modeling, so all that, are you able to sustain your life, and are you able to be a parent? 2 questions. Otherwise, her children would not be entrusted to her again. So, like, this is like a point of permanent decision. Like, are you going to get your children back, or are they going to be permanently taken away from you? It's a very serious situation. Desperate, she arrived at our rehabilitation center. So, desperate, that's just one word, but what is it saying? It says, you could interpret that as because she was desperate. And sometimes you can actually reduce that to just the adjective, because she was desperate, or maybe when she felt desperate. So it could be anything, but it can be reduced to the adjective, and we can see what the full clause looks like. Because she felt desperate, she arrived at our rehabilitation center. Okay. I can only blame myself for everything. So here's the simple present sentence, right? Tatiana lamented in a conversation with a worker in the rehabilitation home. So here are 2 complete sentences that are combined together, right? With a quotation. So she started talking to a worker, right? This is the beginning of the conversation. At the age of 18, I was already drinking constantly and dropped out of school. So at the age of 18, that's also a clause, right? It functions like an adjective, like when, right? At the age of 18, I was already drinking constantly and dropped out of school. So I was already drinking. What this is? We haven't talked about this yet, but this is like a past continuous, past progressive, simple past progressive. I was already drinking and constantly dropped out of school. So she could have used a different sentence, which we're going to talk about in the next few moments. At the age of 18, she had been, right? She had been already drinking, like at the age of 18. Before that, we don't know exactly when, maybe she does, but we don't know exactly when, but it started, that she started drinking at some age, and it had continued to this point. Tatiana could have blamed her parents' bad example, but said she was nevertheless grateful to them for trying to provide her with everything she needed. Perhaps this is like a potential that she has. in the midst of darkness, she sees some positive, and she recognizes and even appreciates her parents for the good things that they have done. Right. So what? Tatiana could have blamed her parents. Like, this is a good use. We haven't talked about this tense yet, but Tatiana could have blamed her. What does that mean? Could have, but she did not. Right. She could have blamed her parents, bad example, but said she was nevertheless grateful to them for trying to provide her with everything she needed. So let's talk about this a little bit. So then what are we talking about? So Tatiana had parents. And they were showing her like bad examples. Well, while at the same time, they also tried to provide for her. Had parents growing up, right? This is childhood. And then Tatiana started drinking. At some point, and we don't know exactly when, right? Tatiana started drinking. And then this is at age of 18. So she started drinking at some point, and it was continuing until this point. And where is she at this point? She is somewhere in the present. This is like the past, right? But she's talking with a social worker or like a rehab center worker. And so she's talking with this person right at this point, and she's looking back and she's recalling, okay, I've had parents, they tried to provide for my needs, although they showed me bad examples of drinking. But I started drinking at some point, and then it was continuing until the 18 years of age, and even after, right? But she's talking about particularly at this point, right? And probably she continued drinking, and that's why she got in trouble. But at the age of 18, I was continuing to drink, and then I'm recalling all this at this point, and that moment of recalling and describing her past is already a past, and by the time she is writing this testimony is the present, and she's recalling this moment of her sharing about her past. So that's why there are so many tenses are involved. I remember how my parents drank, partied, and then fought. My sister, so this is like in the past when she was talking to the rehab staff member, she was describing. I remember how my parents drank, partied, and then fought. My sister and I would hide ourselves out of fear. I was ashamed when my mother and I went to the police station to pick up my father the morning after a fight. So I was ashamed when my mother and I went to the police station to pick up my father. So there are a lot of grammatic elements here. The morning after a fight. So this is an adjective again, describing the timing. My mother's face was swollen and bruised. Her face was swollen and bruised. This is a passive mode, right? So basically what happened? He in the face. This is what happened, right? And then her face was swollen and bruised. So this is an active verb. Her face was swollen. That's passive. Right? There could be like other examples. Maybe it could be she poured more tea. She poured into the cup. The tea, maybe use a different sentence. She pulled she stretched the Play-Doh. The Play-Doh was stretched. So who is doing? So active means somebody is doing that action. Passive means somebody is doing the action on you. So in this case, she stretched the Play-Doh. She's actively doing this, right? And then the Play-Doh was stretched. This is passive. So active is like you're doing the action. Passive means somebody else is doing the action on you, and you're being affected by that. Now, I was 22 when my daughter Diana was born. Diana was born. So here's another example, right? Diana was born. What does it mean? This is passive, right? She was being born. But who gave birth? Tatiana gave birth to Diana. This is active. I was 22 when my daughter Diana was born. I decided to change the course of my life for the sake of my baby. I didn't want her to be ashamed of me. So here's some sentences. Okay, some good sentences. We talked about positive and negative sentences, right? Positive and negative. So, what is the positive sentence here? I decided to change the course of my life. Okay. I decided, that's active. I decided, right? And then negative, that's positive, and then negative is what? I didn't want her. So didn't is what? Did not. In a contracted form, right? I didn't want her to be ashamed of me. I didn't want her to be ashamed of me. I decided to change the course of my life. I didn't want her to be ashamed of me. So here's a good example of positive and negative sentences. Indeed, a few sober years followed the baby's birth. Tatiana graduated from hairdressing school and got a job. It's like two sentences combined together, right? Tatiana graduated from hairdressing school. Tatiana got a job, right? And they are combined as Tatiana graduated from hairdressing school and got a job. She often spoke with Diana's father about making their relationship permanent. Okay, once again, two sentences are put together. But he was not interested in marriage. Why are they combined together by a comma and but? Is because those two ideas are so closely related. It's like one idea. They're so closely connected that it's like one idea, so they're made into one sentence. One morning, after such a conversation, so here are two different adjectives, like talking about the timing. When? One morning. That one morning, like which morning? After such a conversation. Yeah, one morning after talking together, right? Tatiana made a radical decision and asked him to leave. So here are two sentences put together. Tatiana made a radical decision. Tatiana asked her partner to leave. So together, why? They're so closely connected, it's like one idea. Tatiana made a radical decision and asked him to leave. He packed his things and left without a word. Once again, he packed his things and he left without a word. So put together, he packed his things and left without a word. Nevertheless, here's another adverb. Nevertheless, my life was going pretty well. Diana was a sweet child. Here are two sentences combined together once again. Diana was a sweet child. The center, Diana was the center of my life. Yeah, Diana was a sweet child and the center of my life. Eventually, is another adverb. Though, adverb. I fell into self-pity. I started drinking again. Those two ideas are once again so closely connected that they're treated as one sentence. There were some better days when I did schoolwork with Diana and went to the park together. That's where I met a new man. He was always caring and spoke gently to us. So there were some better days. It's a compound sentence with a clause that starts with when. When I did schoolwork with Diana. There were some better days when I did schoolwork with Diana. Okay, so and then there's another sentence, right? Diana and I went to the park together. Right? That's where I met a new man. He always was caring and spoke gently to us. This new partner was from Uzbekistan, but worked in Russia. He moved in and cared for Tatiana and Diana. Soon their son, Ruslan, was born, but alcohol was still a problem in the home. Soon, another adverb, their son Ruslan was born, right? alcohol was still a problem in the home. Those two ideas are so connected together, they're treated as one sentence. The authorities intervened. So sometimes, vocabulary gets in the way, right? The authorities. Yeah, what kind of authorities are we talking about? So usually these are the law enforcement, right? The authorities, it could be law enforcement, like police, right? It could be police, sheriff, and things like that. But when you say authorities, you can also mean governmental authorities, aside from law enforcement, right? Other governmental authorities. Governmental officials, representatives, could be like government contracted agencies, right? It could be a center like this, but maybe this is I don't know about their background, but it can be a governmental agency or somebody who works closely with them, who is given the same level of authority over people. Like, say in this case, child protection agencies are involved, child protective. So, we have a kind of a picture, although it doesn't say specifically what kind of authorities, they could have said, the police came, intervened, but they just said the authorities intervened when the neighbors reported the parents drinking. Rosalind had been found wandering alone in the park. So, here's another passive sentence, right? What's that passive sentence? Rosalind was wandering around. He wasn't wandering around, obviously, but Rosalind had been found wandering around. What do you mean by wandering? It's like you don't have a direction. You don't have a sense of direction. You are just you're lost, right? You're without a care. So Rosalind had been found wandering around. This is a passive sentence. If you were to make this like a positive sentence, it could be something like, not the only option, but the Russian father let Rosalind wander around. That could be an active sentence. While his father was passed out on a bench, police took custody of the little boy and then picked Diana up from school. I cried all night. All night is what? An adverb. I thought about how scared my children must be. Yeah, how scared my children must be is a clause, right? I remembered my own childhood terrors. In the morning, I went to the child care agency, but they told me I could not have the children back until I stopped drinking and got a job. So here are also two sentences put together because they're so closely connected in ideas. The first thing I did when I got home was to collect my partner's things and tell him to leave. Yeah, the first thing I did is a sentence, right? When I got home is a clause describing when it took place, right? And then together, even the complete sentence can be a subject. The first thing I did when I got home, that's a subject. Was is the verb, right? Was what? To collect my partner's things and tell him to leave. Okay. I knew I couldn't change my life on my own, but who would help me? Here are two sentences together. As Tatiana was delivering a package to the shelter for her children, and so here's a clause. It sounds really long, but it's still a clause. As Tatiana was delivering a package to the shelter for her children, one of the workers took pity on the devastated mother, and she wrote a phone number on a piece of paper. Yeah, on a piece of paper, that's also an adverb, talking about the location. These people will help you get your children back, she advised. Yeah, so we're gonna go on to talk about the rest of the passage, but let's start talking about present perfect continuous. Chapter 2, chapter 1 was pretty long, and we don't have to go through each chapter each time because it's really long, and it's better for you to know certain things for sure, rather than just moving fast. This is not like a skimming class, but rather each grammatical element that we get to learn, we want to kind of nail it. So we're going to talk about present perfect and present perfect continuous today. So present perfect. So we talked about adverb, right? Last time we talked about adjective. Adverb modifies verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So it often talks about the time, location, how it was done, and things like that, right? Say, well, I'll give examples. So he cooked fast. So it modifies the verb and it talks about how it was done, right? She held pebbles in her hand. Yeah, so where? This is adverb. So it's modifying the verb. She held it, but where? In her hand. Okay, and then what else is there? The bird flew away in the morning. So like flew away is the verb, right? And in the morning is the adverb, and it's modifying the verb. It specifies the timing. So this is time, location, and this is how it was done. So like these are the things that these are the examples of adverbs, and they make the sentences much more specific, much more descriptive, and rich. You know, so they're very often used in conjunction with the sentences or verbs. Yeah, here are some other examples, right? He bakes cakes every Sunday. Every Sunday. Yeah, that's timing. We ran out there at a breakneck speed. How fast it was done, right? So these are the adverbs. Now, moving on to present perfect. Present perfect. The present perfect tense expresses actions that happen at time that is not specific, and actions that started in the past but continue to the present. Okay, when is it used? Present perfect. Actions that happen at time that is not specific, and actions that started in the past but continue to the present. Yeah, so that is not specific, or not specific in time, or that started in the past but continue to the present. So with the diagram, we can actually see that this is past, present, and then future. So this action started at some point in the past. It continues to the present. Continues to the present. Or it could be an action that is not continuing in the present, but it has happened at some specific time. meaning we're going to talk a little more about this. So, okay, so something that has happened and is continuing to happen to this point, or something that has happened at some point. At some point. Some of the examples, I've done my homework. She has had dinner with her family. I already prepared breakfast. My sister has cleaned the room. It hasn't rained a lot lately. So it has rained a lot lately is what? So it started raining, I don't know, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at some point it started raining, and actually it's still raining a little bit. Maybe it's gonna rain tomorrow again. We don't know for sure, but that's when we use present perfect. It's been raining. It has rained a lot lately. She has watched this movie several times. So she started watching that movie somewhere, like maybe last month, or perhaps even last year. And she has watched it, she kept watching it, and then still she's watching it. Not she's watching at the present moment, but to the present, it is true. He has saved $20,000 up until now. So he's gonna continue to save, probably by the pattern of his behavior, but he started saving at some point, and he has saved up like $20,000 for now, like as of now. They have gone fishing until later this evening, and they have not come back yet, right? And perhaps they're gonna continue. I've solved 20 questions so far. So I am solving questions, and at some point I started solving questions, I'm still solving questions, and I'm going to continue, but we'll see, right? I've solved 20 questions so far. I already made the coffee, right? I already made the coffee. You have already eaten our plums. You have already eaten our 4 plums. So this diagram, I drew it from a source, but there are times, I believe, that you use have or has, the present perfect, to talk about something that has happened, that has started in the past, and has finished at this point. I already made coffee, you know, maybe it's still dripping, but you know, I already done it. I've already done it. I already cleaned the room. It's not that I am cleaning at this point, but it's true as of now. I've cleaned the room. You have already eaten 4 plums, and you're going to continue onto the 5th plum. I've lived in Texas for 10 years, and perhaps this person is going to continue. Perhaps not. Tom has just come to the office, so he's in the office right now, right? The students have read that poem twice, and then perhaps like we did in the morning, the student is going to read maybe 2 more times, right? I've never lied in my life. That's a lie. I've never been to Germany. So perhaps I'm gonna go to Germany maybe tomorrow, but so far I have never been to Germany. And maybe you're flying out right now and you're saying, I've never been to Germany, this is my first time. So it's true as of present. I haven't done my homework. So the negative forms, right? So you use not after that present perfect. Have, has, have not, has not, or haven't, hasn't. I haven't done my homework. She hasn't completed the assigned work. I haven't seen Susan since Sunday. We haven't received any mail since we were retired. I haven't met before. We haven't gone to watch the movie. It hasn't stopped. And then question forms. Question form with regular present simple, we used to use like do or does or did, right? But with present perfect, you would just flip it over, subject and verb. So, have you done your homework? Has she visited the children at the orphanage? Has the post come yet? Hasn't my mother cooked the dinner yet? Have you ever been to England? Have you done the essay yet? Right. So present perfect tense is used to express an action that happened at an unspecified time in the past, and the impact of the event is now continuing. So the action itself may not be going on at this moment, but then the impact is still true, right? For example, she has lost her wallet. She has lost her wallet. It's not that she's continuing to lose it. It happened. Present. At present, her wallet is still not there. So the impact continues. We can't reach Paul by phone. Have you seen him? Have you seen him? So the answer might be, yes, I have. Yeah, just yesterday or just an hour ago, 5 minutes ago. So the impact continues. That's true as of now, right? Tom isn't at school. I think he has gone to the theater. My sister has broken her arm. Her arm is still broken, right? So it's not that she's continuing to break her arms, but rather her arm was broken and then the impact is continuing until now. Okay, present perfect tense is used to express an action that ended recently. We often use words like just or recently for the events taking place a very short time before now. Examples, I have just finished my project. So the state of finishing, like the impact of finishing continues till now, until new assignment is given, right? I just finished my project. So you started doing the project a while back. We don't know when. It could be 10 minutes ago. It was a very simple project. It could be days ago, months ago, years ago. Somewhere in the past, you started working on your project, and you finished recently, and then the impact of having finished is continuing until now. It's true now. My mother has just cleaned the house. So she started cleaning at some point, and the house is in the state of having been cleansed. We have recently eaten dinner. Not many people would say this, but we just ate. We just ate. People would say that, but then grammatically correct expression might be we've just recently eaten dinner. So therefore, we're not hungry. Even now, the impact, we're not hungry right now. Present perfect tense is used to talk about unfinished actions or states or habits that started in the past and continue to the present. In such sentences, it's emphasized how long the action has continued. So we usually use since or for to express how long. We often use dative verbs, non-continuous verbs, mixed verbs in such sentences. So duration from past until now. How do we say it? The student has studied math for 3 months. So it's still not finished. The student has studied math for 3 months, and it's not that he's done, right? I've lived in Paris for 5 years. So already 5 years has passed, but does not mean that I stopped living there. I still continue to live there. My son has been sick since Monday. So what are some of the cues? Since or since or for, or any word that describes how long gives you a hint that this is a present perfect tense. When it's used with present perfect tense, it means the action is not complete. It's an unfinished state, or it's a habit. right? My son has been sick since Monday, and he's still sick. He has worked in Berlin since he graduated from the university. He has worked in Berlin. So he does not discontinue. He does not discontinue. He is still in Berlin, and he's been working, right? She hasn't been calm since the accident. So she still is not calm. Teachers have thought of this project for hours, and they still are thinking about it, right? They have had many cars since I can remember. Yeah, they've had many cars, and perhaps they're gonna continue to have more cars in the future. Present perfect tense is used to express repeated actions in an unspecified time between the past and now. Repeated actions, and we don't know exact timing. We have watched that movie 3 times. Okay, we have watched that movie 3 times. Yeah, repeated actions. I've seen David several times. She's had 6 exams so far this semester, and it means it's not done. It's just a repetition. They've called him 4 times this month. Yeah, so 4 times already complete, but then we don't know if it's going to continue. Maybe it's going to discontinue. We don't know about that, but it's just a repeated thing. Present perfect tense is used when we talk about life experiences. Life experience, like at one point in my life, this has happened. I've been to England in my life. Have you ever eaten sushi before? Any life experience? Well, I've never tried to invent something new. This is like a negative, right? We've never tried it in our lives, okay? And present perfect tense is used when we talk about accomplishments. Present perfect tense is used when we talk about accomplishments. What is an example? My father has spoken 5 languages. Okay, present perfect tense. So it's similar to life experiences, but then it's more of accomplishment. My father has spoken 5 languages. Scientists have found a new way to get cancer cells to self-destruct. Astronauts, people, human beings have gone to the moon, right? Man has walked on the moon. Okay, here we go. Man has walked on the moon. Present perfect tense is used when we talk about changes that has occurred over the period of time. So changes over time. Our English has improved a lot when we moved to England. Yeah, our English has improved a lot. I hope you can say that. Her behavior and attitudes have changed a lot since you last saw her. Her behavior and attitudes have changed a lot since you last saw her. I've become more interested in medical issues. Recognition of present perfect tense. The sentence contains the following words: just, recently, lately, already, before, not yet, never, ever, since, for, so far, until now, up to now. And so let's try this. Present perfect tense, let's practice this. So, verb is study. And here's the sentence. Fill in the blank, please. And the verb is study. I blank English for the last 10 years. I blank English for the past 10 years. I studied English for the past 10 years. So what kind of grammar, what kind of tense should we use? For, we recognize that here the word for is a duration, right? For the past 10 years. 10 years is a duration. So we're gonna use present perfect, right? I've studied English so either you would say, I have studied English, or you can actually shorten it. I've studied English for 10 years. It's duration, right? Duration. Okay, what else? They, okay, and the verb is know. They know each other for 7 years. What, so it's also in duration for 7 years. So they have known each other. Or they've known each other. Right? Alright, next sentence. I, and the verb is sleep. For 30 minutes now. It's duration. So this person is all, obviously awake. Otherwise, I wouldn't be speaking, right? So I've slept. I have slept for 30 minutes now. Oh, slept for 30 minutes now. Okay, and the next sentence. How long did it take for you to learn Chinese? How long did you learn Chinese? I learned it since 2021, so it's a duration, since 2021. I blank Chinese for since 2021. Okay, so since 2021, I have learned, because this duration. He already, and the verb is read, that book for 4 months. Once again, duration. He already has read the book for 4 months. Yeah. This is pretty intense. So like present perfect progressive, we're gonna learn the next time, if it's okay with you. So let's learn some more sentences. Okay, I'm learning English. Present progressive, right? I'm learning English. It's going on right now. Like this, you're learning English right now. I do not understand. Like at this point, like present, I do not understand. And perhaps it means you're not going to understand, right? Could you repeat that, please? Could you please talk slower? Could you please talk a little slower, right? And this is also adverb, right? Thank you, that helps a lot. Thank you, that helps a lot. What does this thing mean? How do you spell that? What do you mean? These are some good questions to ask, like when you don't understand the other person, right? Could you speak slower? Could you enunciate it a little bit? Could you repeat that? How do you spell that? Okay, so I think you picked up some sentences. I hope past or present perfect makes sense to you. Go ahead and try to practice today and throughout the week, and we'll see you next time. Okay, shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your grace and mercy. Lord, we need your help and your wisdom in order to pick up English better. I'm still in the process of learning, and I hope that I can be of some help to the students. And Father, may you come with your wisdom, and Lord, God, teach us good things so that we can express our thoughts and ideas and emotions, Lord God, through words, and even to be a bridge, Lord God, the students who speak English can be a bridge.